So we're going to take you through what we did, and we're going to break down the costs as we go, so you know not just the steps,
but how much we spent.
To get to essentially lock-up, but without any internal finishings or like electrical or plumbing or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right, so just the sealed box with the windows in and, you know.
Hello, I'm Corey.
Hi. Oh, I just shook the table.
Hey everyone, I'm Corey.
I'm Amanda.
We are from Rockpile, off-grid Homestead. We live fully off-grid in the wheat belt region of Western Australia. Been here for just over 3 years.
That's right.
3 years in September.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a month over 3 years. Fully off-grid, own water, own septics.
All the stuff. But today...
What a roller coaster.
What a roller coaster. But today, what we want to do is take you through our journey, the build process, from basically bare ground to a sealed box. We did the build ourselves. We did own a builder.
Yep.
This wasn't the first time we've done own a builder. We own a built our last house.
That's true.
And that time we did it as a steel frame. And that's what we were going to do this time, but we decided to go SIPS panels instead, and we'll get into why that is later. Yeah. And there was like a few other ideas that were floating around for houses, but yeah, this is what we ended up with.
If you're new here, welcome. Quick rundown on me and Amanda. We have extensive knowledge in construction and products, like different types of building materials and products. So we have, just a vast knowledge of all that sort of stuff. That's why we build a lot of the stuff around here ourselves. And I have a tool addiction and Amanda has a camera addiction. Okay, let's go.
All right, so let's start with an overview of this place so you know the context of what we're talking about. So this is 108 square meters.
Yep.
And we went 108 square meters for various reasons, but one, it's deliberately smaller. Our last place was quite large, like 250.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful place. We built it ourselves. High ceilings, ornate cornices, because we're both tradies from the wall and ceiling industry. So we could do all that ourselves.
Don't tell people we do.
Multiple bedrooms, bathrooms, big living areas, massive kitchen, 3 ovens.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Much too big for us, just for us two, and we wanted to downsize to a simpler life with a smaller house but bigger land, hence Rockpile. So I do miss the kitchen though.
We had a kick-ass kitchen, but we've got plans here, so everything takes time.
Yep.
And we'll get there.
All right, so we bought this property in 2018.
Correct.
And that's when the whole process kind of started for us, even though we didn't move here till 2020. There's, I think, an important thing to talk about is there's a lot of stuff you have to do before the build, right? So we're going to take you through what we did, and we're going to break down the costs as we go, so you know not just the steps,
but how much we spent
to get to essentially lock up, but without any internal finishings or like electrical or plumbing or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right, so just the sealed box with the windows in and,
Steel frame, floor, walls, roof, windows, sealed box.
So before you build, there was a lot to do before we started building or even started the building approvals process. Like we poured over the maps and contour drawings. We printed them out big and got them laminated so we could draw on them. So whatever your map services are in your state, look into options around that and getting an idea of your contours.
Yep. We found that very helpful because you just once it's laminated, you just use a whiteboard marker. You know, I don't want the house here, a track, a shed. Nah, scrub it out, start again, and you just work out like a simple scale measurement for that map.
Yep.
And then you know you eventually come up with a pretty good idea of where you want your infrastructure put. You know, and then.
And we travelled here, and we came here quite. I mean, it was a fair trip from our previous place, but we came here enough that we once we thought of places where we could put the house and different, like the yard and the shed and all that sort of stuff. We would come here and see how it felt in the space.
Yeah.
And that also gave us an opportunity to get a feel for what the seasons were like and what the rainfall did and where it travelled and all that sort of stuff. So.
Right.
All right, so we actually drew our own plans just by hand with a scale rule and pencil and
when she says we,
eraser on a bit of graph paper.
Yep.
And it actually had a number of iterations, and we refined it over months and months and months because we had the luxury of that time while we were, planning to build here. And I think for us we are really good at visualization, so we could draw a plan, and because we're both from the building industry.
Well, we were using house plans every week for our day job, building stuff. So
we could look at a set of plans and imagine ourselves in that space and walking around, and we knew what a room that was 3 meters big felt like. But when we were deciding on sizes and shapes and sizes of rooms, there's one important thing that we always like to do, which is
I'll try and explain this properly. We like to build stuff to available sizes of materials. Now, most materials comes in set lengths, whether it's timber or sheeting or plywood, whatever. Say 2.4 metres, 3 metres, 3.6, 4.8, 6 metres. So our house is 6 metres wide because the SIPS panels, example, the roof panels can span 6 metres. So why would you make your house 6.2 or 5.5 metres when you would have half a metre offcut? So we just went 6 metres is the width. Example. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So same as everything else.
Or in a room, doing a room where you might have gyprock sheets. You want to minimise wastage. So if you're doing, say, ceiling sheets, you would do it, as close to a standard length of material as possible, and then you're minimising wastage, and you're not.
And when you're designing and building your own one-off place, you have the luxury of doing that. Do I want my bedroom 3.6 metres wide? Yeah, why not? That's 3 sheets on the ceiling because they're 1,200 wide. So that helped a lot because waste. If you work it out, how many square metres of each product you chuck out, that's just money going in the bin.
Yeah, and not to mention just, it is waste.
Yeah.
And we want to minimise our kind of footprint.
Yeah.
All right, so when you're setting out, and because we've done this a couple of times now, designed our own house, gone own a builder, gone through all the approvals process, when you're going through that process, one really helpful thing is to go to your council's website, and when they have information about building approvals, they have a checklist that will tell you everything you need on your plans.
Yeah.
It's not as involved as you might think. And that's why we've been able to, our first house, we literally submitted my hand-drawn plans. This time we drew them up and we sent them to a drafts person who then digitized them, and that formed part of the submission. So there's both those different options, but basically your council will have a checklist. It will tell you what scale the drawings need to be in, what information needs to be on there, and just tick it off. If it's something that you want to do yourself and you want to have control over, have a look. It's not as difficult as it may seem. Okay, so
Well, with the checklist as well, the way the council, say our council for example, like with the way they write the checklist, they make each box with a description. The description sounds like full on, like, oh my God, how am I going to get all the information for that one little checkbox? But when you break it down, it may only be 2 or 3 bits of paper that you actually need to check that tick box.
Yep.
You know, so it can seem overwhelming, like when you first read it, but just one box at a time. Start with the easy ones, finish with the ones that take a bit more paperwork.
Cool. Let's list off all the different parts of that process for us and how much they cost.
Yep.
Keeping in mind that initially we had actually planned to build this house the same way we built our last house, which was a steel frame construction. So that means we have an initial set of plans that we submitted to the drafty, which came in at $3,000. Now that drafts person also arranged for engineered approval, and they got the plan surveyor certified, and they basically, for an extra fee, they made sure that, you know, they kind of worked in with the Shire to make sure they had everything they needed to get it approved quite quickly. But for that submission, there was a few elements that we had to pre-arrange. One of those was the BAL, which is the bushfire attack level.
Yep.
And that assesses your bushfire risk, and you have to submit that with your plans. That came in at about $500. Site classification, that's really important before you get your plans drawn up, because the engineer needs to know what your soil type is and what the wind is doing. And that came in at
$700.
$700. So, permeability testing and wind classification.
Yep. And that just means basically, one extreme to the other. If you're building on full-on clay, your concrete footings or slab will be different to if you're building on sand. So you might need subsoil drains and all this sort of stuff if you go on clay, because clay moves when it gets wet and shrinks when it dries, whereas sand is a lot more stabilised type thing.
Yeah, and if it's a high winds classification, then that might impact, you know, your structural. Yeah,
like eave overhangs or
and windows.
Yeah,
extra and that sort of thing.
Extra posts in your house type thing.
Yeah, so so BAL, a bushfire attack level, site classification. We also had to contribute to the construction fund training levy. Yep. I'm pretty sure that's Australia wide, or it might be just WA, but that was $230. We already said that we did owner builder, so that involved a payment of a license fee.
Yep. And you have to sit and do an online course to get your owner builder's ticket.
And that came in at
$165.
$165, and that might differ from state to state. So check your requirements. I should say here that we did all this through 2019.
Yeah, in WA, just remember that. We're in Western Australia.
So the prices that we're telling you were the prices back then, and where we've been able to, like while we're telling you prices, if we know that something's gone up, we'll mention it.
Yeah.
But this is the price from like 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And then we had to get owner builders construction insurance, which was about a couple of grand.
Yeah, two odd grand, I think that was, for 12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was all the pre-work, and we're pretty much all ready to go. And then we decided to just change everything.
Who decided?
We did.
We're a team.
We did? No, it wasn't me, was it?
No, of course not. No, I can't remember.
No, actually, okay, I do remember why.
You do. Why.
I do remember why. Because we were talking about how to insulate the floor.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And our first thought was to do like just the timber
because
flooring.
we're on steel posts, so we've got an elevated steel frame floor, which we'll get into the details on, and we're just going to do like posts, rails, bearers, I guess you call them, with joists and then put timber flooring on top. But we were concerned about the insulation factor from underneath. We didn't want like the cold coming through. And we talked 10 different ideas.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were quite convoluted.
Yeah.
Like lining
we
the
can do
underneath with villa board and then insulating it and then putting the timber on top, or doing it out of, I think what the last idea was, can we do this out of cool room panel and then screw the timber to it?
Yes.
Right? Because cool
that's
room
where the
panels
conversation
like
started,
insulated panels, and then put the timber floor on top of that. And then we that got us onto the SIPs idea. So I don't know how we actually found.
I think Corey was
SIPs.
like in research mode.
Yeah.
And we had seen them, but we, like on TV, right? Watching those building shows that you love to watch, like Grand Designs and all that sort of stuff, would give you fabulous ideas. But we hadn't seen them. We hadn't built with them. We hadn't seen them used here. So Corey went on a bit of a research thing.
That's kind of what I do.
Found a company in Perth, in Fremantle, Sips Industries, that made them, and he's like, oh, maybe we can do that for our floor because it's vermin proof. They've got like their own BAL rating.
Yeah.
Great insulation, and it's just like, that's just the one. It's not a multi-step thing. We'll just put it down and it does all those things.
And the floor panels span 2 meters. So that eliminated a lot of steel framework as well.
Yeah.
Now I just want to say a SIPs panel, quick rundown, it's foam that's got 12 mil OSB plywood on either side.
Like engineered.
Yeah. So it's very strong, very rigid, and surprisingly they're not that heavy to work with.
Comparatively, yeah.
Yeah. And as I said, the roof spans 6 metres, the roof panels. They're 175 mil thick, and they span 6 metres, which is like, that's massive. To get a product to span 6 metres under its own weight, that's only this thick, is like, normally you need like a truss.
Yeah.
Pretty insane.
And I think that was the point. We kind of said, that'd be great to do the floor out of, and then Corey kind of went, well,
let's just do the walls out of it.
The roof panels span 6 meters, and we wanted a skilling and roof for here, but the steel required for a steel frame skilling and roof was going to be cost prohibitive, even back then.
Yeah.
So, and then that kind of sealed the deal for us. Our plans in council were like a pitched roof, just a simple pitched roof.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so how badly do we want this? And and we decided the investment of getting our plans redrawn.
So we did a slight amendment to the plan, which basically involved a whole new set of plans.
Yeah, well, we went back to the drafts person.
She was great.
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah, she was great. And that cost us another $1,500. So not as much as the first time, but it was still like a significant amount of, cash to drop, but we were so much happier with what we were going to build because it had like this incredible insulation value for the 6 panels, and
They're an outstanding product.
Yeah.
Just outstanding.
Yeah, so like I said, the company we went through was Sips Industries, and we'll pop the
link or
the link
in the
description.
That's
if you reach out to them, tell them you found us through us. We don't get any kickbacks or anything, but but it might help the conversation along because they did a case study on us and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right, so we got our plans redrawn and we actually had to get them reapproved.
Oh yes.
Yes, so that's something that I haven't got in there, which is the council.
Which I think
the council fees for approvals
was. I think they did the righty because they just kind of put it through.
They put it as an amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because I think there was like nothing had changed with like the floor plan. Nothing had changed with like the engineering approvals. Really, we still had the same outside cladding material.
Yeah. Essentially, it was the roof that went from the pitch to a skillion, and the actual product instead of the steel frame wall framing with cladding and gyprock type thing. It was just the SIPs panel itself. So So that was like an additional fee, just getting those amended, but we got those approvals through. Yep.
Right. Okay, so that is the before you build stuff done. There
Yes.
might be bits and
Might
pieces
have
we
been,
missed, but
yeah.
that's like, you know, that's
That generally covers
that's
it.
the main thing. So
Yeah.
now we're at the point we've got our plans approved that we want, and we can start doing stuff. So like Ro said, we're doing like a post raised floor construction. So we needed to do concrete footings. Now we just did those concrete footings as per the engineer's recommendations. And Corey actually dug the holes by hand. Took you a couple of days.
Yep.
And then we had the concrete guy come in, just a single guy,
Concrete truck.
and you and him.
We basically reversed over the middle row
Yeah.
of holes because our house is a rectangle, 18 metres by 6 metres. So we reversed over the middle row, had the shootout, and we basically just went, shot the hole, drove forward a bit,
Yeah.
dun 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 dun, and he was basically just doing all the concrete.
Yeah.
I was coming behind him like troweling,
Yeah.
just to get him sort of nice and flat.
So that was about 5 cubic meters.
Yes.
And that came in at
Just under 1,300, about
Yeah.
1237.50
Yeah.
actually, because we have the receipt.
and that was pretty much spot on.
Yeah,
That amount, and we did like another little
gas bottle
concrete
pad.
gas bottle pad, and I
Yeah.
think we didn't have the tank in then, so
No.
yeah, but it was pretty much spot on, so
Yeah.
that was good. Okay, so that's done. The next thing we need to do is start building up like the steel
steel
posts
frame.
and steel subfloor process. Did you want to
Yeah.
just run through that, like from the concrete to the steel subfloor?
Yes, so I'll just start with the posts. The posts have a 10mm plate. They're approximately 175mm square with 4 holes, one in each corner. We use 75 by 75 by 3 steel posts. They range in height from, the shortest one is about 100 and the tallest one is about 1800, I think, because our land slopes down a bit.
Yep.
So hence the floor goes in level. On top of that post, I used some steel brackets I had laser cut, one to cap the post that had 2 slots in it, and the steel brackets, vertical brackets, went through those slots, so they are welded from underneath and welded on top, and they had 6 holes in each side, and that's what was screwed to the main bearers. And the main bearers are 150mm by 50mm by 3mm galvanised RHS, and they run the full perimeter of the house, and because we've got 10 rows of posts and there's 3 per row, so 10 runs, and then we screw it on the edge of the house.
Yep.
Um,
Size of the house is 18 metres by 6 metres. I don't know if we...
6.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
we said that before.
Oh, we did.
But yeah, 18 by 6. So...
and what was the plate onto the concrete method?
So the plate on the concrete, basically we allowed a 16mm nut, like just a big nut, like off a bolt. Put that in the middle of the concrete and rest your steel plate on top. And then we drilled 4 holes and used chemi anchors. Chemi anchors were 160 by 12. And a chemi anchor is essentially like a no more gaps gun, but quite elaborate. And it has 2 tubes of epoxy in it, and there's special nozzle, so when you squeeze the trigger, the 2 epoxies mix in this nozzle, and it comes out like a epoxy resin, and it dries like rock hard.
Yeah.
So you drill the hole, you blow it out so there's no dust in there, and then you squirt it about half full roughly with this stuff, and you twist in this chemi anchor bolt, which is a threaded, just a bolt really with no head, just the threaded part.
Yep.
And then it only takes about half an hour before you can put like a little bit of pressure on it, and we leave it for the next day before we tighten it up. But essentially that one nut in the middle underneath that plate, the plate pivots on that nut, so depending on which bolt you do up, you can get the post 100%
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
So there's also like string lines involved, so all the posts are in line that way and that way. A little bit of math involved with sort of squaring it up and using the 3-4-5 method and getting it all square. We had 3 different laser levels that we checked the height of the footings
Be very short.
to make, because we made all the posts.
Yeah.
So we had a bit of paper that had whatever, red laser, green laser, dumpy level, and we checked it 3 times, wrote all the measurements down, and they were all within like a mil or 2.
Yeah.
And then cut all the posts, labelled them all, laid them out. It went very smoothly.
Yeah.
It did.
It was
Takes time, but very smoothly.
And Corey designed and got laser cut all the different like brackets and pieces, and then welded together the posts for that. So keep in mind when we're talking about costs during this build, we've done essentially what this whole first part we did all the labour ourselves. So
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go through the costs of that steel frame subfloor.
Yep.
Okay, so we purchased 18 lengths of 150 by 50 by 3 mil. That came to $3,158 because the price per length then was $154. Now, the price per length is $355. So that is a significant increase.
Yeah, it's like doubled the price.
Yeah.
So, because remember, this was 3 years ago that we built this place. So, next one was the post, the 75 by 75 posts. So we got 8 lengths of that, and they were back then how much?
$104.
And now $265. So you can see how much steel prices have like just gone through the roof. Prices with everything, really.
Yeah.
And then we welded. Oh, we got all the brackets laser cut.
Yep, and that came to $450.
Yep. So that's the steel plates for the bottom, the 2 vertical plates that hold on to the bearers. I'll call them bearers.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's their actual name. And then a plate that caps the top of the post as well. So, and just having brackets like that, so you don't have to make them all. Just go paying someone and go picking them up. So much easier.
Yeah, and you designed them, and you were actually in conversations with the engineer to make sure that like our design and construction method was going to fit with like his engineering specs, because he didn't have like super a lot of he didn't go down to like the nitty gritty details in the building documents.
And we also
fun.
jumped the gun and made the post before, because I just wanted to make it my way.
Yeah.
And then I talked to the engineer, and then kind of he just said, "Oh yeah, that's fine."
Oh, that's right, because actually the plan specified that everything had to be like this, like he specified a certain type of steel and had to be bolted together, and we kind of went back to him and said, we're wanting to do it like this. Is this going to meet spec? And he kind of had a look at it and said, yep, that's fine.
That's fine. No problem.
It's just an alternative way of doing it. So 160 chemi anchors.
Yep. So they're about $2.50 each. So it's about $450.
That's for the bolt and glue, $450.
Yep.
$120 for drill bits for the chemi anchor hole, for the chemi anchor holes. Yep.
And I think that was just I think I just did a pilot hole to start with, like a 6 mil hole in the concrete to start with, and then finished it off with a 14 mil like concrete drill bit.
Yep.
And this whole thing was done with cordless tools.
And we already had the tools, so factor that in.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking at building stuff yourself, we already had all the tools, so that like takes a big chunk of the cost out.
Yeah, definitely.
So tech screws, various fixings, of different sizes, came in at around $600. Corey always likes to have like a big box of packers of different thicknesses.
You just get them from the big grain shed. They're called window packers. They come in thicknesses from 1 mil up to 10 mil, like a little horseshoe shape.
Yeah.
Great for a whole number of different reasons.
So a box of them is $45.
Yep.
And when Corey was talking about having that bolt under the plate that
the nut under the plate.
Yep. That's sitting on the concrete footing. Once that was all adjusted, we dry packed.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Cement underneath that, and so that was all packed in tight.
And then we painted it with that tar paint.
And so then we painted it all with a tar paint and went up the post, like a couple hundred mil or something.
About 200 mil up the post with the tar paint.
So I can't remember how much the tar paint was.
The posts aren't like buried in the sand, so you can still see the top of the concrete now. So we're not worried about corrosion on there because the posts are actually above that.
And we, like, the packing concrete stuff was about $50, and then I guess the tar paint stuff would have been about the same, $50 to $100.
Yeah.
And Sikaflex, because we love Sikaflex, we got 2 boxes of it, which came in at about $400.
Yeah.
The prices back then, I think it's more expensive now.
Yeah, about $190 for a box of 20 sausages, like they're 600 gram sausages, and I bought a box the other week. Was it $260 now?
So it's going up. And now you can get these from Bunnings.
Yeah.
But we bought it in a bulk box set from like a different construction suppliers.
I guess we should just quickly touch on that as well. You can buy pretty much everything you want from Bunnings, right? But if you're going to buy like bulk stuff, like say like a box of Sikaflex or 10,000 screws, you're better off looking for a place that actually sells, like, that specialises in screws or fixings or adhesives, because you can get stuff so much cheaper, you know, like, it's just how it is.
Significantly cheaper. Yeah. Cool. So at that stage we had a steel frame floor.
Yep.
And we were ready to put our
SIPS panels
box on top of it.
Yeah.
All right. So our sealed box was going to be made of SIPS panels, structurally engineered panels, and double glazed windows. We'll get to the windows, but let's start with the SIPS from basically the floor, and we'll talk them through it from the floor all the way up.
Okay. Basically, we started on one day and we finished the next.
It went a lot faster than our last house. It went a lot faster than we thought, but yeah.
So the floor. So we got SIPS panels on the floor. So you've just sort of seen some pictures of the floor frame, right? We put all of our SIPS panels on the floor. We got some paint. I think it was Dulux Weather Shield.
It was just an external paint.
Yeah.
And we got that. We picked that up secondhand off.
Just off Marketplace, right? With the colour was just like a dark grey.
Yep.
And we painted all the panels, right? I got up on them and with the roller and basically painted the floor. Now we wanted that as the underside of the house, so the actual raw timber was semi-protected, sealed, we'll call it. So it was just easier to lay all the panels out on the floor, go up with the roller, turn the tunes on, paint them all, try and keep the dog off.
Try not to fall through the panels.
Oh yeah, I fell through, yeah. We won't talk about
that. It only happened once.
Yeah. And then when they were dry, we basically started in the centre. We got a string line set up from end to end, so 18 metres worth of string line.
Yep.
For string line, we use 200-pound fishing braid because you can just pull it so tight
over long distances, and it doesn't sag.
It doesn't stretch and sag like that. You really can pull it tight. I just had like a big spool, like a 1,000 metre whatever spool of it, and that was our string line that we had for many years. That works a treat. So then we like to start from the centre, because our house is kind of even and we do things evenly. If you, and I find that if you start from the middle and you are going out one way with a measurement, if you're going to be wrong, you're only going to be half wrong.
Or even if there's any small variations, it's not as noticeable. But if you start at one end with a small variation, that can become a very big variation by the time you get to all the way the other end. So by starting in the middle, you're splitting the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we sickered up the steel frame, flipped the panels, boom, put them on the frame. I pre-drilled through the panel and through the steel with a 300mm steel drill bit, and then we used these big special screws that went through the panel. I suppose you call them like bugles, big bugles, through the panel into the steel frame, and they're at 400 centres the whole way on every piece of steel on the floor. The SIPS panels, when they join, you join them with an LVL timber, so the 150mm by 63 LVL timber. The idea is you put the panel down. The panels have a slight recess.
Yeah, all the way around.
All the way around where the foam's cut out. You spray that with expander foam. You put the LVL in. You can either nail it or screw it. We chose to screw it.
Yep.
And then you get the other panel. You expander foam the recess, and you butt them in together.
Yep.
And that expander foam essentially fills up any voids of air inside the joint, and that's what helps it with the insulation factor.
Yep.
So the foam does offer some sort of adhesion, but not much. Insulation factor, definitely. So once you kind of get going on a bit of a rhythm, there's two of us, we both know what we're doing. I've got my job, Amanda's got hers. It didn't take long to get down.
No, it didn't. And we've got a whole video that shows the process, but that was kind of basically it. So that was a pretty cool dance floor by the time it was done.
Felt pretty good.
Oh, yeah, and getting up on there and walking around and going, oh, this is going to be the view from the bedroom or from the kitchen or whatever, that was exciting.
Yeah,
definitely. That was very cool.
That was pretty good. And then around the perimeter, so we've got all the SIPS panels laid, 18 metres by 6 metres. Around the perimeter of the SIPS panels, we used a 150 by 35 timber, like an LVL, I guess, still. And that goes in the side all the way around, and that gets screwed, it got screwed through with bugles into the steel frame as well.
Oh, I remembered something.
Yes.
Our floor panels, we actually did them, even though you can get SIPS panels at 6 metre lengths.
Oh, yes.
We got them at 3 metre lengths because that's what was available.
Yep.
So which means we put them like butt joint to butt joint. So we had like LVLs running like the length of them, but also there'll be like little short LVL butt joint between each one.
That's
so
right.
there's kind of a join running down the middle, but also like in between each join. So just in case you notice that on the video, like some of the choices we made were due to what was available at the time. You know, it was 2020 and 2021, so we just wanted to get what we could. When things were getting held up at in containers and shipping was like all over the place. So that's what we decided at the time. And
it's solid, like.
Oh yeah.
Just with the combination of the Chemi anchors are much better than Dynabolts, in my opinion, because the Chemi anchors, once they're chemied into the concrete, they do not move. Whereas a Dynabolt can have that chance of coming loose and just friction making it loose, just like a little bit of movement. And Sikaflexing the floor, the timber floor, the SIPS panels down to the steel, it's bulletproof. When you stomp on it, there's like no rattles. It just sounds like,
it feels solid. It doesn't feel like precarious or hollow or anything like that. It's a really good.
Everything we do, we use Sika. Even putting gyprock on like a steel frame wall, I'll run a whole bead of Sika up the stud, put the gyprock on, one screw in the centre. I mean, it's not to it's not to CSR spec. It's not the standard, but after doing it, it's better than standard. It is unbelievable. That's our choice. So, all right. So the floor's down. It's time for the walls to go up. So we lay a timber plate, which was 120 by 35, because the wall panels are actually thinner than the floor panels. The floor and roof panels. So they've 120 by 35 timber, and that gets Sikaflexed and screwed down to the floor. And essentially the wall panels just stand up and sit over that timber. Yeah, because remember it's got that little recess, the recess, so it just kind of slotted on top of Yep.
Yep. And then we like screwed through into the bottom, so that kind of held it quite stable.
And once you have like a corner done, and a couple of panels coming off each way,
that went up really quickly.
It is so solid, and it goes so fast.
Yep.
You know?
And again, the panels that we chose, or the size and design we chose for our house, were in accordance with standard size panels. So our lower end is 2.4 high, the top end of our skillion is 3.3, because those were two standard size panels.
Yep.
And we bought a tool for doing the walls to recess out
the foam
where we actually cut the panels ourselves.
So essentially it's like just like a hot knife.
Yep.
It's got a little blade that you bend to suit the width of your panel, and you set it for say 30mm depth. You pull the trigger and it just essentially melts the foam, and you pull out the little strip of foam. Very handy bit of kit that is.
Yeah. So we chose to get all full size panels and then cut out the penetrations of doors and windows ourselves.
And why? Because
it was significantly cheaper, and again the time frame.
Yeah.
It would have been like months difference, and we'll tell you the cost difference when we run through the cost. But
surprising.
it was significantly cheaper. So, and it wasn't that much harder actually. So it was just the saw, the timber saw to cut the OSB, and we had the little hot knife to cut out the. Yeah, and then we still, and then around the windows and doors, and we had like timbers lining those.
Yep, the 120 by 35 is lined around every opening.
Yeah.
And that's essentially just what, say, the window frame sat in, and you fix the window frame back to that.
And Corey pretty much put up all those wall panels himself. So I was busy doing other stuff. Working. And Corey's like, I'm just going to get started on these, and we thought that he'll be able to get up the side of the wall with the 2.4, and then he kind of just kept on going, and then he was like, I'll probably need help with the taller panels. And then I think it was only like 2 or 3 days later, it was just like, you just got them all up yourself. I think I only helped with one panel. So we've got a whole video showing the walls going up as well. So I think that final panel, we actually, like, not only did I help, we had the excavator helping.
Oh yeah, the big window head one.
Yeah. So that was a window header over like a 6 metre long window. So that was a big one. So that was
because our largest,
pretty much the only one you didn't do yourself.
Our largest sliding door is 6 metres wide by 2.4 metres high, and we have one panel spanning the roof of it, or the head of it.
Yep.
So yeah, we use the excavator to lift that up into position.
Right.
And of course it fitted.
Of course it fitted.
Yeah, that's what tape measures are for. But I will say, doing the 2.4 panels on your own, no problem, easy. When you step up to say the 3.3 metre panels,
easy, yeah.
Still relatively easy, but still making you work. Like they're just a bit awkward. If you kind of have one and
you're better off like having a team.
If you lean it over on a bit too much of an angle, you may not recover it, and it may just go. Yeah. So you kind of got to know your limits of what you can hold. But the 2.4s, we're pretty. Yeah, just about swing them around with one finger, like.
All right, so at this stage we've got a floor, we've got the walls, we've got all our doors and windows cut out.
Yep.
And the next thing is the roof. Talk about how we kind of prepped for that, and then we'll like give details about the process, because this is like this part we both were involved in.
So before we done the roof, we set up 2 string lines inside the house that span from the inside of the corner to the opposite end. They were on 10mm packers, so the line was spaced 10mm off the wall each end, on the high side and on the low side.
And why do we do that?
And then we did that so we could just we had some props on the wall, because the wall it wasn't actually dead straight for over the 18 metres. It was a little bit like this. So we used the props to pull the wall back or push it out So that string line was still 10 mil off the wall the whole way.
And you don't put the string line hard to the wall, because if there's any variation, it will deflect the string line, and you're not going to get a true straight line. So if you offset it and just work on keeping the gap even, then you're going to get a more accurate final result. So
definitely.
All right, so string lines.
String lines, props. So the long sides are propped straight. The ends were extremely straight because they were only short. So, and then it was like, wow, how did we get these 6 metre panels up on the roof?
Now, I know we said before with the floor, we started from the centre and moved out. With the roof, we did start installing the panels from one end and moving down, but we took our measurement for that one from the centre, measured back, and then we had like that point to start, and then we moved across the house. So
because we have an equal eave overhang on both ends.
Yep.
So even though our house
that turned out almost perfect as well.
Yeah, it did. It was only within like a few mil out, I think. It was pretty good. So yeah. So then I made up a little steel jib extender for the excavator. That was a couple of metres long with a hook on the end. The panels themselves, the 6 metre panel isn't actually that heavy when you're lifting it with machinery. So I don't know how much they weigh. Maybe we'll just call it, say, 200 kilos. Maybe you would have never done it by hand. By getting it up on a scaffold. The house is 2 metres off the ground on the high side. Scaffold ladders, only 2 people. If you had more people, say 4 to 6 people, you probably could have managed them to get them up on the roof. But basically, we put the LVL in, the one side of the panel, so spray foam, LVL, screwed it, and then we worked out the measurement where the hook would go on the panel.
That would make it perfectly balanced.
Yep. So when you lift it up with the excavator, it's not going to flop to one side. So we lifted it up, and the panel, we worked it out so it would sit on a slight angle to match the roof.
Yep.
But also it would sit flat that way. So it was actually really good. That took a little bit to get going, but once we got that measurement, we knew where to lift every panel from.
Yep. And we just slung it around. So I was in the excavator.
Yep.
And, I would get out and help Corey, adjust the panel, get the LVL in, and then I would jump in the excavator and he would sort of arrange the sling. I would lift it, sling it around, and you would be, in the house on the scaffold, calling out any sort of adjustments,
Not yelling, just gently calling out.
No swearing. No, it actually went quite smoothly. And and you just did the fine tuning adjustments. And once it was in place, you kind of pinned it down, and then what we did is the panels were a little bit awkward to squeeze together over that LVL. Yep.
So we ended up putting a bugle in this panel and a bugle in that one, and just had a small ratchet strap.
Yep.
And just used the ratchet strap, and it just basically just compressed the panels onto each
very
other.
Well. Yeah.
The panels are held down to the top wall plate with 300 mil landscaping screws.
Yep.
Now they are from Bunnings. They have a very, very coarse thread and a very decent size head on the actual screw.
Oh, the walls had a top plate all the way around as well.
Oh yeah, same as the bottom.
Yep.
Top plate 120 by 35.
Yep.
Now, if you have any questions, because we kind of know exactly how it was built, but putting it every step into words,
if there's any details
in every
that you think we've
way it
forgotten,
happened,
just ask.
If you want to know something in particular, just ask us, and we can explain that particular bit in detail.
We did actually, our last live had quite a few questions about this, so that might have more information as well.
Yeah.
If you watch this and you want to go back to that live, and it would be the live before this one, then just have a look, because quite a few people ask questions, detailed questions about the SIPs. Okay, so we've slung it over. We've used the ratchet straps to pull it close.
Yep.
We've got the landscape screws. And basically we just bam, 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 one after the other.
Yes, pebbles.
We also had straps that went from the panels, like all the way down.
Yep, just hoop iron from Bunnings. I think it's like 30 mil by 1.6. It's got all, like, it's galvanised, it's got all holes in it. It comes in like a roll. That's fixed on the roof, goes down the outside of the wall. I made a special tool that would grab the hoop iron, go underneath the steel frame of the house, and you could lever it and get heaps of tension on it, and then it's fixed into the steel frame.
Yep. Cool. So, and that is the lid on, and then that had like timber all around the outside as well.
Yep, that's correct.
So, and then
you've got a timber box, essentially.
And we've got a timber box.
Yeah, which was a pretty big moment in our life.
Yeah, it was good. We're just like, wow. Yeah, I'm surprised how, like, overall, flabbergasted at how quickly it went up.
Oh.
How relatively easy it was.
Yeah.
And how, like, square and, like, there was hardly any variations, like, with measurements and...
Oh, the panels, the accuracy of the panels, like, prefabricated from the factory in Fremantle, were unfaultable.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Yeah, it is now.
They were so accurate, it was unbelievable.
Okay, so the panels themselves, like I said, we got like off-the-shelf sizes.
Yep.
Because they were available, and if we wanted like the 6 meter lengths for the floor and the pre-cut ones for the walls, we would have been looking at like another 3 to 4 month wait.
Yeah.
So for the walls, if we wanted pre-cut, it would have been almost double. So as it is, all our 6 panels for this build came in at just under $25,000 at the time. So this is back in 2020.
Yep, 3 years ago.
And if we wanted all the pre-cut panels, that would have ended up at $40,000.
And another 3-4 month wait.
Another 3 to 4 month wait.
Yeah.
So which is why we, went, okay, well, we feel like that's worth the extra effort to cut all the penetrations ourselves, and really it was not that much extra effort at all.
It was very simple.
So if you're tossing up whether or not to get it all pre-cut, if you don't have a complicated house and you're, handy with the tools, just do it yourself.
Yeah.
That's our recommendation. All right, so $25,000 for all the SIPS panels would have been $40,000. Paint for the underside,
$200.
about a couple $100.
Yeah.
So all the timber. So we're talking like 150 by 63 LVLs for the floor and the roof, 150 by 35 for the perimeter timber. The joiners in the walls, part of the SIPS purchase, 120 by 35 for all the window and door openings.
Yep, and the bottom
and the bottom
and the top.
And then we got like 70 by 35 that we put on the outside of the SIPS panels, ready for whatever the external lining we chose. And so all the timbers together came to $9,000.
Yeah.
That was 2020. And I think it was even like probably when we actually checked all the pricing, this was a few months ago now. So when we checked the pricing in today's market, those same timbers would be around the $15,000 mark. So, I mean, that's a significant increase. We got like a vapor barrier wrap, which we wrapped on the outside of all the walls and the roof.
Yep.
That was $330 per roll. And we used about 5 rolls.
Yep.
So external cladding.
We went with Colorbond.
Yeah, we went with Colorbond, and that is about a little over $20 per square meter.
Yep.
And then we did our own custom flashings.
Yes.
For the external.
Yes.
And designed by us and bent up by Medallia Steel, that came in at $3,000.
Yep.
like the fixings for the external cladding came in at about like $3 per square meter worth of like fixings and screws and stuff. And yeah, we got expander foam that we used.
Many cans, about 40 cans of expander foam.
Yep,
So,
at $15 a can back then.
It's about
so
$600 for foam. It's all these little things that add up.
Yeah.
You know, like...
the screws for all the SIPS panels.
Oh, I think they're about $180, $200. $500.
Yeah.
Oh, the strapping was $180.
The strapping was $180.
We've got like a whole list here.
So the screws for the SIPS panel ranged anywhere from the 50mm chipboard screws to the 250mm landscaping screws.
Yep.
And then basically at this stage, we just needed to put the windows in. We went with a double glazed window.
Double glazed and tinted as well.
Double glazed and tinted, which we needed for the energy efficiency rating.
Yep.
And that is, we installed those ourselves because again, it would have been almost double for them to install it, and all the windows came to a little over $25,000.
Yep.
So the SIPS panels and the windows were the biggest investment. But at that stage, we have like a sealed box, right, without any internal linings, without electrical or plumbing.
Yep.
So still like sealed box, bare ground, the sealed box. It came in at about $78,000.
Yeah, just over.
So
and again, there's probably like
there's probably
a few bits and bobs that we. So if you call it around 80 grand, yeah,
that's the real cost of building our off-grid home.
Yeah.
Obviously, additional costs once we got inside and started fitting things out, but maybe that's another video. We haven't finished everything.
Still to come.
So yeah.
But no, I hope you hope we shined a bit of light on the subject of building your own place and what things actually cost, and how much money you can potentially save if you do it yourself and if you shop around for products. Yeah,
and you're sensible about what you're choosing to do and being economical, because it's really easy for budgets to blow out earlier on in the piece.
Yeah.
Because you're just going that little bit more, on this, and you're getting like a more refined version here or a more expensive version there, and then suddenly your budget's
like if we were to go from
18
metres by 6 metres, but we say we wanted to go 18 metres by 8 metres, then that's a whole nother row of concrete footings, a whole nother big section of steel frame, more floor panels, more wall panels, more roof panels, but the roof doesn't span 8 metres, it only does 6 metres, so there's probably going to be like a bit of structural steel in there to support the roof.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you want to do owner builder and you want to go all out and build your dream home, you're probably not going to end up saving much money. You'll save the money if you keep it simple, and and just add your own personality and flair in other ways, rather than going all out and going too fancy.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Well,
now, please drop some comments with some questions. Any questions at all, we're happy to answer them as best we can.
Yeah. We might even do like a follow-up video. In a while if there's like a bunch of questions.
If we get half a dozen questions, we'll answer them all in one video.
If you want to know more about our journey to here, I'll put a link to a video there. And you guys can hear about our journey from tradies to homesteaders.
Yep.
But other than that, that's our place. That's the real truth.
And there'll be a few links in the description for the build videos of different parts of the house build. Different parts of the house build.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that covers about everything.
That covers a lot of stuff.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that.
Appreciate you hanging around this long, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you later, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.